Good morning. Thanks for having me. So my name is Jim. I work at ITEC, and believe it or not, we're out at the Marion County Airport. That's not the Ocala Airport. There's another airport. It's out near Denellen. And so I say believe it or not because there's not a lot out there. But it's exciting what we're doing. And so I hope to tell you a little bit about that today. And so ITEC stands for the Indigenous Peoples Technology and Education Center. Whew, it's easier to say ITEC, right? So Indigenous, that refers to First Nation people or people that are from that country. And so we actually work around the world taking creative approaches to develop tools and training to help people in that area. So what in the world does that mean? Well, we live in an area that would be considered a developed world. And so does about 15% of the population globally. But about 85% of the world lives in places that would be developing or underdeveloped. And so when we think of things like, man, I've got this toothache, I really need to go see the dentist. We've got several options. You probably drove past several options on the way here this morning. So most developed areas have about one dentist per 5,000 people. But in undeveloped areas, your ratio looks more like 1 per 1 million. So you can start to see that it gets a little bit more complicated to be able to go to the dentist when you have that abscess tooth that is keeping you up at night, and it is the only thing that you can focus on. Our team actually works to train people who have no dental background to be able to do dentistry. So places where there are no dentists, we'll go in on a short-term trip and we'll train people how to do basic extractions in dentistry. So you can see how this is a huge opportunity to be able to provide a service in an area where somebody wouldn't have access to basic dentistry, maybe health care. And so this is the creativity that our team is working on. So our team actually works in a lot of different areas. And it's part of what makes us unique. Kind of like this room. We've got a lot of backgrounds, a lot of professionals, a lot of passions. And when we can come together, we can see problems or challenges from a lot of different angles. And so on our team, we have dentists, we have doctors, we have mechanical engineers, we have aerospace engineers, we have movie producers. We have a wide variety of passionate professional people that are all trying to look at the challenges that our world has. And so the challenge that we face is that there's a lot of hurting people globally. There's a lot of hurting people in our community, right? But what is the appropriate response? Recently, we had a pretty big storm roll through Panama City. They're in need of some help. And so our community, our state, we're responding appropriately. We're sending relief. We're trying to help those people that just went through a disaster. But 5 years from now, if we're continuing to send, bottles of water and food into this area, there's probably a problem with that, right? And so when disaster happens, there's a need for relief. But if we're not working towards rehabilitation and development, then we're going to create dependency. And so the appropriate response for that type situation seems pretty cut and dry, but it can get more complicated as we look at maybe that person that walks up to you that's distressed in the parking lot. You walk out of the grocery store, you've got a bag full of groceries, and somebody comes up and says that they're hungry and they need $5 to be able to go get a meal. What's the appropriate response? We've all been there. We've all been in those challenging situations to know what the response is. And so sometimes it's more complicated. It's not simply giving that person the money. Globally, I think one of the things that the United States brings is we like to fix problems. We see a problem, we want to bring a solution. So when they don't have any food, well, let's get them food. They don't have health care, let's get them health care. They don't have shoes? Well, let's start a program. We want to get behind programs like a Tom's Shoe Company where we can buy one that's going to give one. The challenge that we have is what happens to the guy that was trying to sell shoes in that community where we just poured a bunch of shoes? You see, so there's complications in our effort to try and help hurting people. Sometimes we actually can hurt them. And so I'm sure many people are familiar with the Hippocratic Oath. The first rule of medicine is to do no harm. And so when we try to look through the lens of helping people around the world in different areas, I just mentioned dentistry, the first goal is to do no harm. And so what we believe is an appropriate response is to train the local people to do the work. So when there's an area where there are no dentists, a lot of people would send a team of dentists to be able to go and see as many people as possible. Where there is no health care, they want to send doctors in and set up tents and see as many people maybe in a week. But the problem is we have a bigger need that if every healthcare professional were to leave the United States and go out, into these underdeveloped worlds, there's a greater need. And so our challenge, the reason why ITEC exists, is we're trying to develop tools and training to be able to equip the people in those areas to be able to meet those needs. And so we are a Christian organization, so we do look at things through the lens of that. And so we believe that local churches around the world are the avenue that this is the way we want to work. So we believe that a local church is a way that can provide, help and care into a community. And so we're working in healthcare. We actually do all kind of different trainings, which I handed out some brochures. But I tell you what, 6 minutes goes a lot faster than you think it would, and so I've already had the thumbs up. So we've got a few minutes, though, for questions. So, guys, I'd like to answer some of those if you have any.
Sure, real fast about the flying car.
Oh, boy. So one of the challenges is transportation in remote locations, right? So how can you get from point A to point B? There's not always the bus or the Uber to jump on. And even in places where aviation exists, these small airstrips. Our team, we're working to develop solutions for transportation. And so one of those solutions that we worked on was a flying car. And yes, it really flies. It's basically a blend between a dune buggy and a powered parachute, if you guys are familiar with what those are. So the principles of flight are similar to what you'd see in a powered parachute. But it also has the driving capability. So it's fully road legal, it's FAA certified. We could drive down the road, pull over, set up the mast and wing, and be able to take off in the air. So we've got videos of that on our website, and I'd love to talk more about that.